Soccer Network sound test.
Now Worrell has a good cutback from him. He'll fire one, and that's going to go in!
Are you looking to play at the next level? MSN is now offering player recruitment videos. We are excited to partner with you and your family in getting you to the next level. To learn more about our packages and what we offer, head over to the MichiganSoccerNetwork.com. Remember, your journey starts with a click.
My dad and my grandfather are officials. I've grown up around officials and seeing how much they enjoy being part of the games. As a student athlete, I've always appreciated the people out there who are willing to give back to the kids. The Legacy program lets me officiate while I'm still in high school, working younger kids' games. Officiating gives me a better understanding of the game. I get to make some pretty good money for a high school kid, and I even get to spend some quality time with my dad. There's help wanted. Just whistle.
Sacker down by the end line. Puts us across. Lose your eye! And just like that, 1-1. Now Elders may look to take a shot. He does, and he buries it! Steps up, and just like that, Reed Dennis comes up big. Lose your eye, 1-on-1. Lose your eye. Oh, he'll be taken down inside the box.
Knocked back in. Nationals got it. Bicycle kick for a goal!
Now Sacker. Sacker into the 18. Sacker shot. That goes off the goalkeeper's glove into the net. 2-1 here in the 32nd. This one played in. That's a good ball. That one goes in. And just like that, the Nationals now have a 1-0 lead. Walensky puts his far post. One-touch opportunity. And what a great goal that was.
Joaquin Beatty of Ohio League.
Look at that shot from Sevi Roy. My goodness, Sevi Roy with a left-footed banger.
We are the MHSSCA, a collection of 750 high schools and 750 middle schools, from Temperance to Copper Harbor, from New Buffalo to Alpena. Each year, more than 250,000 students play one of our 28 sports. More than 1.5 million fans attend our postseason games. There are 30,000 coaches and 8,000 officials, not to mention all of the volunteers. The MHSSCA believes in the 4 S's. School sports should be safe and kept in the appropriate scope. We believe nothing beats great sportsmanship, and that scholarship in the classroom is more important than excellence on the field or court. Most of all, we believe school sports should be fun. So come out and join us at a game. Support your school, support your community, and come see what the excitement is all about.
Northwestern is up from 12, now at 10.
Voice of Michigan Student Athletes, the Student Advisory Council's role
is to convey the message of how high school sports are supposed to be played. We were responsible for helping the MIHSSCA maintain a positive and healthy atmosphere
in which interscholastic students can thrive.
We believe athletes should be competitive,
sportsmanlike, and excel academically.
We believe students in the stand should have fun,
but not take the focus away from the game. We believe coaches should act as teachers,
helping student athletes develop while still keeping high school sports in perspective.
We believe that parents should always be positive role models
and be supportive of their child's decisions.
We believe officials commit their own time to high school sports.
And respect should always be shown and given to them.
The most important goal for student athletes is to enjoy high school sports
while maintaining a high level of respect for all those involved in the games.
Enjoy the game.
Are you looking to take your game to the next level? Did you know that MSN is now offering player recruitment videos? Our packages include a player profile where you show your preferred positions, the club, the league, or school that you play in, your current coach contact information, and more. The highlight videos could be self-submitted, 15 to 30 clips that will be put into a 3 to 7 minute long video. Video review of your Huddle, VO, or other platforms that you might have video on, as well as for an additional charge, MSN can come out and film games for you to create those clips. Our coach evaluation process, which is also an additional charge, where we have college coaches from various levels across the United States that will review your game film and provide feedback on how to improve that film, as well as also evaluating your play and what you can improve on. To learn more about our packages and what we offer, head over to the MichiganSoccerNetwork.com. Remember, your journey starts with a click.
Our mission is to help players take their game to the next level and reach their potential. Not only do we help develop fundamental technical skills such as ball control in tight spaces with different surfaces, dribbling at speed and changing direction, using a variety of 1v1 skills to create space, receiving on a half turn, hook turn, and out of the air, finishing off the dribbling, one-touch, volleys, and headers. We help players get comfortable performing these skills at game speed with pressure and with both their dominant and non-dominant foot. In addition, we help players with their speed of play, awareness of space, defenders and teammates, and also dominate with their off-the-ball movement. We offer a variety of services such as one-on-ones, small groups, large groups, as well as team sessions. We have an experienced coaching staff that is professional, friendly, patient, while still holding players to high standards and holding them accountable. No matter what level you're at as a player, I'm confident we can help you get better. Over the past 3 years, we've built one of the best soccer-specific training facilities in the country and developed one of the most detail-oriented programs to help out players. Visit our website.
In for Baccarat, and that goes in! Hugo Baccarat gives Flint City a 3-2. Buckley, the ball falls to Buckley. 1-on-1 with Etheridge. What a save! Welcome into the first ever MSN All-State Media Day for girls soccer. Jonathan Turner alongside Dan Stickrat. Ball comes in, a good hit! 1-0! Shot, another save from Etheridge! Rebound, and it goes in the back of the net. The Bulldogs up 1-0! Burzma, but then for Vlasma! 3-0! Stewart Heiss with a shot! Upper 90 and in! Effectively today here on the Michigan Soccer Network, we are launching our new division of player recruitment videos. Mario Canoe now finds Stock. Finds Stock's got a left-footed banger. He shoots it, and it's in! The Red Hawks equalize!
Welcome in, everybody, to the MSN High School Ranking Show. We've made it to week 4, where we break down the top 15 teams in each of the 4 divisions of the MIHSSCA, according to the Michigan High School Soccer Coaches Association. We're so glad to be back. My name is Giovanni Mosheri. That's the newsman. News director Dan Stickrat, and we're here for you guys. We're so sorry that we missed last week. We wish we could have been there, but we are hyped to get here for week 4. A ton of changes, including changes to the number 1 teams. We haven't seen that in the opening 3 weeks, but a lot to get to today, Dan.
Yeah, over 40 changes overall. There will be several new number 1s across the 4 divisions this week. So a lot of movement. What we're seeing across the state is now that we've got into conference play, a lot of teams are literally beating each other. Like, these rankings could almost change on a daily basis. You beat a ranked team, and 2 days later you lose another ranked team, and then on Saturday you go tie another ranked team. So teams are up and down all over the place. It's making for some very competitive, evenly matched soccer games for the most part. So yeah, you're starting to see a lot of movement based on the fact that some of these conferences are just so difficult. There's so many teams where literally it's one play is the difference in a single game.
Yeah, and that's what makes the difference. 1 second, 1 moment out of 80 minutes of play on the pitch. So be sure to subscribe right here on YouTube where you're watching here, or Facebook, or Twitter, or Roku. We're live on all of them. That's the place to be to get all your soccer goodness, is right here at the Michigan Soccer Network. And to break down the numbers in more exact terms, Dan, we got 3 new number 1 teams this week. We'll see who's the one that stayed at number 1. We also got 46 changes for this week for a total of 135 through 4 weeks of the high school season, and 2 divisions have the same top 15 but in a much different order. So that one's going to be a lot of fun to break down here. We'll start it off with Division 4, move into Division 3, 2, and 1, and then to finish off the show, we'll give you a heads up as to what we'll be seeing right here on the Michigan Soccer Network as far as broadcasts and games that we will be featuring for you. So when we come back, we'll start things off with Division 4. We'll see, does Lansing Christian stay number 1 for 4 weeks in a row? We'll take a look at that as well as the rest of Division 4 right here on the MSN High School Ranking Show.
He'll cut it back on his left foot, and that goes in! Towards the 6, a one-time shot, and it's 2. Now one with Everett! What a save! One-time shot! My goodness! One finds his way to the back. Starks got a left-footed banger. He shoots it! It's in!
MSN High School Ranking Show, and man, that National Soccer Network promo's got me excited for all the big things that we got coming up here on the Michigan Soccer Network. But the one that is immediate right now coming up on the Michigan Soccer Network is Division 4. We're going to break down the top 15 teams to see who made it in, who made it out, honorable mentions, and my newsman Dan Stickler will break it all down for you guys. So without a moment's wait, let's get to that top 15 here. We'll start at number 15. Down 3 spots from last week, we find Manchester at 5-2-2-1 on their season. And our first team that has entered the list for the first time during this season, we have Hillsdale Academy at the number 14 spot. At the 13 spot, up 2 spots from last week, we got Brighton Livingston Christian. And our second new addition to the top 15 at the number 12 spot, their first appearance on this list is Allen Park Inner City Baptist. We get to number 11, up 2 spots from last week, Detroit Cristo Rey. And into our top 10, we find Muskegon Western Michigan Christian down 2 spots from last week, with North Muskegon holding on strong at their number 9 spot. Now to number 8, up 2 spots from last week, we find Clarkston Everett Collegiate. Number 7 holds strong as Bloomfield Hills Roper stays at the number 7 spot. Down 2 spots from last week. At the number 6, we find Jackson Christian. And in our top 5, we find Granville Calvin Christian, up 1 spot from last week. And Grosse Pointe Woods University Leggett, up 1 spot from last week, but holding on is our top 3, the same top 3 that we had in week 3. Number 3, Royal Oak Shrine Catholic, Leland at number 2, and holding on to the number 1 spot, the only team to do so this week, is Lansing Christian. Your honorable mentions include Holland Black River, Tawas, Auburn Hills Oakland Christian, Kalamazoo Christian, and Harbor Springs. Not making it back is Holland Black River and Tawas in that top 15 for a total of 10 changes, 2 teams in and 2 teams out. Dan, break it down for me.
Well, you look at a debut with Hillsdale Academy. Their conference doesn't have enough schools for a boys or girls, schedule, so they play independent every year. But you look at the last decade, Hillsdale Academy always seems to make their way into that top 15. They're just a very competitive team out, in the Jackson area. So Hillsdale Academy makes its debut. Brighton Livingston Christian, they haven't had a soccer program. It's been less than 10 years, but they're putting up some really big numbers. They're out of the Southeastern Michigan Athletic Conference. That's a bunch of small Christian schools in that league. They're doing very well. North Muskegon tied Granville Calvin Christian over the weekend. So North Muskegon and Granville Calvin Christian, they're playing a very tough league and non-league schedules. Bloomfield Hills Roper, they won the Blue Division of the MEAC last year. That's the same conference with Auburn Hills Oakland Christian, Allen Park Intercity Baptist, and then Plymouth Christian, which was ranked a couple weeks ago. So those 4 teams are kind of going to go at it. There's 6 schools in that league. They'll play a total of 10 league games. We'll see how that all shakes out. Detroit Coastal Ray, we saw them pop up on the radar last year, but this is their best start in their program's history. That school's less than 20 years old, but 5-1 start's the best start they've had. Muskegon Western Michigan Christian, the 2-time defending state champs in D4. They did lose to Leland 4-2 here this past week. They're still a good team, and they load up their non-conference schedule year in, year out. They'll play Division I, Division II, and the Division III schools. So never count out the Warriors, regardless of what the record was. 2 years ago, they entered that tournament. They were not ranked, and they went on to win the state championship. So you can't count them out. The top 3, Royal Oak Shrine Catholic, they brought back a ton of players. Mark Soma's done a great job with that program. Leland has been in multiple Final Fours here in the last decade. They won it all back in 2018. And Lansing Christian, regional finalists a year ago, but they've outscored the opposition 65-8 here after 4 weeks. The Pilgrims are clicking on all cylinders. They're a very good team. I mentioned a couple weeks ago that Owen Resch is a Mr. Soccer candidate. You talk to coaches around the Lansing area and around the state. His name popped up. He had, I believe, 53 goals and 26 assists last year. He plays club ball with the Michigan Jaguars. But their whole team, they brought back a good number of players, key parts. So Lansing Christian is number 1 for a reason. They are undefeated at 11-0-0, and it's going to take a great effort to knock them off their perch. We'll see if that happens. I mean, there's a lot of very good teams on this list. University Liggett, that are always ranked almost every year the last 30-plus years. Jackson Christian has improved immensely here the last couple years. Clarkson Everett Collegiate is another one that's been around the top 15 the last decade. So you go up and down this list. The one thing you can say is the top 2, Lansing Christian and Leland, were both in the Final 8 last year. Leland lost in the state semifinals. That team brought back a ton of talent as well. The Comets, I think, brought back 5 all-state players. So there's a lot of very good teams. This is Division IV, but chances are that your Final 4 will probably come from this list.
No doubt about it. And Lansing Christian, we'll talk about the top 3, Lansing Christian, Leland, and Royal Oak Shrine. Teams that have stayed towards the top of the list for the opening 4 weeks of the season. And with how many changes that we've seen throughout these lists, like I said, for this week we got 46 changes alone and 135 in total. So for Lansing Christian to stay at the top in Division IV, that's very hard to do. That's very difficult.
Yeah, they were heavy favorites to win their conference, the Central Michigan Athletic Conference, and you start with, at this point of the season where you're, almost halfway through your schedule, you're starting, when you have that kind of record, you're starting to play a lot of confidence. Like, teams they're going to want to play their best, put a circle to you on your calendar, but at the same time, they're playing a lot of confidence, like they feel like they should win. So Lansing Christian, it's one of their best teams they've ever put forth, and they've had some good teams over the years, but the Pilgrims, they're going to be a tough team, especially come that tournament to knock out of the postseason.
And a lot of new tough teams coming up for us when we get to Division 3, 2, and 1. In total, Division 4 sees 10 changes, 2 new teams, 2 teams out. And it's been great covering Division 4. We'll have a lot of ranked matches coming up here on the Michigan Soccer Network. We'll get to that schedule towards the end of the show. But next we got coming up for Division 3, and it's been Notre Dame Prep that's held the #1 spot. But with Lansing Christian being that one team that held their spot, that means every team from every division from now on will have a new #1 spot. We'll see who got the #1 spot in Division 3 when we come back right here on the Michigan Soccer Network High School Ranking Show.
Now Worrell has a good cutback from him. He'll fire one, and that's going to go in! Granite City Food and Brewery has 2 Michigan locations in Troy and Northville. Serves made-from-scratch food, brews in-house beer, and even has brunch every Sunday from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. To learn more about their daily specials or to book a private party, visit gcfb.com. Make sure you head over to Granite City in Northville at the corner of 7 Mile and Haggerty, or the Troy location at 16 Mile and I-75.
Are you looking to play at the next level? MSN is now offering player recruitment videos. We are excited to partner with you and your family in getting you to the next level. To learn more about our packages and what we offer, head over to the MichiganSoccerNetwork.com. Remember, your journey starts with a click.
What rhymes with great?
Participate.
Where does greatness start? Here, in the classroom. On the diamond.
In the pool. On the field.
Where will your greatness take you?
To better grades.
To more friends.
Yeah! Be great.
Participate!
Welcome back, everybody, to the MSN High School Ranking Show, the only show of its kind that breaks down the top 15 teams in the state of Michigan in all 4 divisions, according to the Michigan High School Soccer Coaches Association. My name is Giovanni Mosheri. That's MSN News Director Dan Stickrat. And some housekeeping before we get into the top 15 of Division 3. If you think that your school deserves better consideration to get into this top 15, if you think that your team has got what it takes to be one of the best, then here's the way to get your team in better consideration. Talking to your division chairs through your head coach is the only way to get your team in better consideration, and I word it that way because it is no guarantee. But the proper way to go about it is to not necessarily a social media campaign, but rather talk to your coach and have your coach make a push, contact your division chairs and the names. We have them listed on screen there for each division. Have them advocate for your team so that those division chairs can find your team in better consideration. So we want to make sure that is clear for all of you to get yourself in the top 15. And with that out of the way, let's dig into the top 15 of Division 3. And we got a new number 1 here along with 3 new teams making the list. Let's start things off with number 15. Our first newcomer in the top 15, we have Buchanan, their first time on the list. Number 14, holding strong, is Elk Rapids, holding their spot from last week and down 1 spot from last week. At number 13, we have Williamston, and down 2 spots. At number 12, we have Traverse City St. Francis. Holding on to number 11 is Alma, and 2 teams, a new addition to this top 15, Grayling at number 10 and Milan at number 9 make their first appearance. Number 8, holding strong, is Grosse Seal, along with number 7, Imlay City, number 6, Kingsford, and number 5, Hartford. All of those teams holding on from week 3. And then down 2 spots from week 3, we find Macomb Lutheran North at the number 4 spot. And jumping up into the top 3, Flint Powers Catholic, Notre Dame Prep, coming in at number 2 after holding on to number 1 for the first 3 weeks. They drop 1 for the number 2 spot. And getting them into the number 1 spot, Detroit Country Day, their first time as a number 1 team, and they stand alone in Division 3. Honorable mentions include Delton Kellogg, Eaton Rapids, Grand Rapids West Michigan Aviation Academy, Lake Odessa Lakewood, Ogama Heights, Saginaw Swan Valley, Wyoming Godwin Heights, and Wyoming Lee in our honorable mentions. 3 new teams in, 3 teams out for a total of 9 changes in Division 3. Dan, I'm looking to you here. Break it down for the people here for Division 3.
Well, you look at number 15, Buchanan. They're off to the best start in about 20 years. We had a chance to broadcast their game. They come out of the Lakeland Conference in southwestern Michigan. Buchanan sits right near the borderline of Indiana, but they're just one of those situations where they got a bunch of young players that play club in Michigan or in Indiana. They have some players driving up to Kalamazoo and Battle Creek area, and it's showing on the high school soccer pitch. So Buchanan playing some very good soccer for a Division III school. Elk Rapids is Elk Rapids. They've been in the rankings in either D3 or D4 dating back to the 1980s. Huge sophomore class, so Elk Rapids was really young last year, but they're in that new conference, the Northern Shores Conference, so you kind of break that down. Harbor Springs in Division 4, as Honorable mentioned, those 2 teams are with Grayling. Now, Grayling, I believe this is their best start in school history. They lost the conference MVP last year that graduated, had close to 50 goals, but just great balance across their lineup, so they're undefeated 4 weeks into the season.
Yeah, 8-0-0 is no joke for Grayling.
So that's going to be a 3-team race in that conference. Williamston, out of the Capillary Athletic Conference, the 3 divisions. Williamston's another program that never seems to fall too far away from the top 5. They're ranked almost every year. Traverse City Francis, we had a chance to see them yesterday. They played in the Harbor Springs Invitational. That's a different situation where the host school in the past was Traverse City Christian. Now St. Francis is the host school. They also get players from Traverse City Grand Traverse Academy. So you have 3 schools feeding into that program. They're called the Liberty. It's a unified team. Milan, they actually knocked off New Boston Huron, which was ranked last week in Division 2. They're out of the Huron Conference along with Grosse Seal. You see it in the 8th position. So those 2 teams are Division 3, Huron's Division 2, but those 3 teams are going to go at it the rest of the year in that league. We'll see who ends up the champion in the Huron League. Imlay City, I believe they won 10 straight Blue Water Area Conference championships. They've played a tough non-conference schedule here in late August, early September. Now they're playing teams in our league, and they knocked off Almont the other day, so they're in good position to repeat as a conference champion once again. Kingsford, the western side of the UP, it's over by Iron Mountain. They literally sit less than 2 miles away from Wisconsin. Some of their schools they play are in Wisconsin. They're in the Great Northern UP Conference, but it's just them and Marquette that actually have teams, so they play an independent schedule. They did knock off early in the year. They beat Elk Rapids and Leland, number 2 in Division 4. Now most of their schedule will be in the against UP schools, but they are only given up 2 goals all season. They are running teams off the pitch. They have Jackson Buckley is one of the better seniors in the state of Michigan. He already has 24 goals on the year. So Kingsford, they won their first district in school history last year. They brought back most of their starting lineup, some key reserves. It's a very good team. We'll see if they can make a run downstate and stick around in the tournament for a while this year. Hartford bumped up to Division III last year from Division IV. They won another district. Their only loss last year was in the regional semifinals to Hudsonville Unity Christian, which is now up in D2. So Hartford playing some very good soccer. They're out of that Southwest 10 conference, so they expect them to perhaps win that league as well. The top four, a little bit of movement up there, but Macomb Lutheran North beat Country Day in the Paul Bartoshuk tournament the first weekend of the year. Country Day was your runner-up last year. They've won 15 state titles in MHSAA history, which started their tournament back in 1982. That's one of the premier programs. Country Day is always going to be a good team. They're very well coached. They did lose their best player, wouldn't play at Academy this year, but they brought a couple kids back. And then they had a very deep bench last year, so Country Day playing great soccer. They knocked off Notre Dame Prep 2-0 this past week in a non-conference game. Well, technically both schools, everything's a non-conference game.
Right.
Both these teams are independents right now. And then Flint Powers Catholic, they're up. They're the only, I've mentioned this several times in the past, but they've done well. They tied for third with Lapeer last year in that Saginaw Valley League. And we'll see if they can give Grand Blanc a run for the money. Grand Blanc is playing very good soccer. They won it. They edged out Midland Dow in that league last year. The Powers made some little bit of lineup changes here before the season, moved some players around, and they are clicking on all cylinders. They've played a very tough schedule. And Lutheran North, I believe they knocked off Bloomfield's Cranbrook, which was ranked pretty high last couple weeks in Division II. But they also suffered their first loss of the season. So that top four is very good. And you look down the rest of the list, there are some teams that are knocking on that door. If one of those teams up there falters, Hartford, Kingsford, Imlay City, Grosse Seals had a lot of success in the state tournament in the last 10 to 12 years. So we'll see. Are any of those other teams make a run to the Final Four? Will any of those teams be able to knock off the top four? Is it possible? Anything's possible.
No doubt, especially with the amount of changes that we see week to week, it absolutely is possible. And that's what's difficult about being number one for so long, is that there's so many teams, like you were mentioning, so many teams behind them that are just waiting to get their chance at you. And especially when you talk about the head-to-head matchup between Country Day and Notre Dame Prep, there's not a lot of things that can hold as much weight as a head-to-head for the top two, between the top two teams.
And those two teams, along with Macomb Lutheran North, they're in the same district again. That's going to be one of those things where you might have to win 2 or 3 very tough games to win your district. We'll see who escapes that come mid to late October. But that's a very tough district. That's very tough top 15 now. We're almost halfway through the regular season already, and we've played just around 4 weeks, and some teams kind of starting to separate themselves a little bit as you look at Division III.
Definitely, and as we go throughout the season, the lists kind of become more and more refined as we have more data to go off of, obviously. But I want to highlight one last thing before we get into Division II. You mentioned Hartford moving from Division IV to Division III. It's not the only instance that we've seen a division movement throughout this list here. We see some moving from D3 to D2. We might talk about that in a little bit in the D2 segment. But to be one of the best in your division and then move to the next one and still be dominant is very impressive, no doubt.
Yeah, Hartford 2 years ago, they had been to like a few regional finals in the last decade. Their enrollment went up a little bit. They moved up to D3 last year. They were top 15, I believe, the whole year. Again, only one loss. Now they're up to 5th this year, and Unity Christian and South Christian are no longer in Division III. So will that door open? Will Hartford be able to make the run of their first Final Four? It'll be a great success story. That program has only been around, I believe this is their 14th year they've had a soccer program, and now they have kind of emerged as a state power.
And as we have a comment here by K-Boy86, says Pletcher is so nonchalant and makes everything look easy. He rejected MLS Next teams and made all-state honorable mentions as a sophomore. This year, he is easily the best goalie in the state. A very large claim to make, but no doubt warranted.
Yeah, he goes to Ann Arbor Huron. We'll talk about that in the Division I segment here in just a little bit.
And before we get to that, we got to get to Division II here. Coming up next here on the Michigan Soccer Network High School Ranking Show. Be sure to subscribe. We'll be back in a moment for the top 15 teams in Division II. Where does Warren De La Salle land and who took their #1 spot? We'll find out next right here on the Ranking Show.
Are you looking to play at the next level? MSN is now offering player recruitment videos. We are excited to partner with you and your family in getting you to the next level. To learn more about our packages and what we offer, head over to the MichiganSoccerNetwork.com. Remember, your journey starts with a click.
Our mission is to help players take their game to the next level and reach their potential. Not only do we help develop fundamental technical skills such as ball control in tight spaces with different surfaces, dribbling at speed and changing direction, using a variety of 1v1 skills to create space, receiving on a half turn, hook turn, and out of the air, finishing off the dribbling, one-touch, volleys, and headers. We help players get comfortable performing these skills at game speed with pressure and with both their dominant and non-dominant foot. In addition, we help players with their speed of play, awareness of space, defenders, and teammates, and also dominate with their off-the-ball movement. We offer a variety of services such as one-on-ones, small groups, large groups, as well as team sessions. We have an experienced coaching staff that is professional, friendly, patient, while still holding players to high standards and holding them accountable. No matter what level you're at as a player, I'm confident we can help you get better. Over the past 3 years, we've built one of the best soccer-specific training facilities in the country and developed one of the most detail-oriented programs to help out players. Visit our website.
Michigan Soccer Network, man! DCFC!
The sights, the sounds of historic Keyworth Stadium. There's nothing quite like it. Each week, Jonathan Turner and Neil Rule will break down the most recent Detroit City FC USL Championship match, taking a look at the Eastern Conference standings, looking ahead to their upcoming match, and much more. Watch the Detroit City FC recap show each week on the Michigan Soccer Network.
Let's go City on the Michigan Soccer Network. You are watching the Michigan Soccer Network. Come on, City.
Now Worrell has a good cutback from him. He'll fire one, and that's going to go in!
Welcome back, everybody, to the Michigan Soccer Network High School Ranking Show. We got done with Division 4 and Division 3, and now brings us to Division 2. Welcome in, everybody, to our Shelby Township studios. My name is Giovanni Mosheri. That's News Director Dan Stickrad, helping us break down the top 15 teams in each division, according to the Michigan High School Soccer Coaches Association. And it's been a fun ride so far. We've seen a lot of changes, but none more than Division 2. A total of 14 changes are seen here in Division 2. A lot of movement.
Yeah, again, it goes back to this. A lot of these teams are starting to beat up on each other. A lot of these schools are playing some very tough, non-conference schedules early on. Now they're involved in league title chases. There's so many teams that are so close. So we're seeing a lot more movement at this stage than the previous 2 years of being able to run this show. So we'll see if that continues or if things will start to level out here the next 4 to 5 weeks, and then we get into the state tournament as well. So yeah, a ton of movement. And a lot of that movement was really validated with some kind of shocking upsets.
No doubt about it. And before we get to that top 15 Division 2, a comment in regarding to Division 3. It says Lutheran North beat Country Day. How does that work with Country Day being named #1 and Lutheran North not so?
Yeah, I know Lutheran North beat Country Day at that Paul Bartoshuk tournament. That's usually the first weekend of games. That tournament's been around since the 1980s, I believe. Luther North beat Country Day 1-0. That was about 3 weeks ago. Country Day has been playing very good soccer as of late. They've played a very tough schedule, and then they knocked off Notre Dame Prep, so I believe that was why we saw the changes in terms of the rankings from the Coach Association. This is their rankings. We're just presenting that on behalf of the Michigan High School Soccer Coach Association. So
yes,
it's one of those situations, and that could change again. Again, there's some. I look at that top 10 in Division III, and there's some very good programs that have done well against Division I and Division II schools this year or in the past, and like I said, there are teams that we're looking at right now that I would not be surprised that they're playing on the final day of this season.
And now let's get into the top 15 of Division II. Enough hesitation. Let's go and dive into it. We'll start off with a team making their first appearance on the list. Unranked last week, but now ranked this week. It is Bay City John Glenn in the number 15 spot for Division II. And down a shocking 11 spots, in our 14th spot, we find Cranbrook. In our number 13 spot, down 4 spots, we find Hudsonville Unity Christian, one of those teams that moved from Division III to Division II. Down 1 spot from last week in the number 12 spot, we find Grand Rapids Christian, and jumping up 4 spots, Zeeland East in our number 11. Dropping 3 spots to the number 10 spot, New Boston Huron, and up 4, we find Mason at number 9. At number 8, up 4 spots, Forest Hills Northern, along with Allendale jumping up 7 spots to the number 7 spot. Holding on to the number 6 spot, the only team to hold on to their spot for this week compared to last is Waterford Kettering at number 6. Getting into the top 5, up 3 spots, we find Grand Rapids South Christian. And down 2 spots, respectively, at the number 4 and number 3 spot, DeWitt and Warren De La Salle. And a new top 2 in Division II, we find Fruitport up 3 spots to get to the number 2 spot. And your new number 1 team jumping up 3 spots, we find Holland. Honorable mentions include Bloomfield Hills Brother Rice, Cedar Springs, Dearborn Divine Child, Melvindale, and Riverview, with Auburn Hills Avondale being the one team to be left off this list. For Division II, a lot of movement. Like we said, 14 movements with 1 team in and 1 team out.
Well, I had the chance to talk to the Bay City John Glenn coach here early last week. This looks like it's their best start in program history. They appeared in the rankings, honorable mention, at parts of last year. They beat, about a week and a half ago, they knocked off Alma 1-0. They're in that red division of the Tri-Valley Conference. So Bay City John Glenn is playing some very good soccer. They're putting up some really big numbers. So that is a program that's definitely been on the rise here the last couple of seasons. Cranbrook was playing some very good soccer, tough schedule. They had a little bit of rough spot. They've taken 3 losses here in about a week and a half. Hudsonville Unity Christian dropped a couple. They're still a good team. I know they graduated 7 stars, but that's another one of those programs that they'll move up and down the rankings. They've been in Division III the last 6 or 7 years. Now they're back up in D2, but expect them to be a team will be very difficult to knock out in the postseason. Grand Rapids Christian, your defending state champs. Very tough schedule again. They've already had 3 losses this year, but they've played as good as a schedule as anybody in Division II. Zeeland East, 2 years ago, they won their very first conference and district championship in their program history, but like 15 kids graduated from that group. Last year, they went really young. They started 3 or 4 freshmen. They took their lumps. This year, they brought back most of their roster. They're playing some very good soccer here. The chicks are playing some quality soccer, and you expect them to be one of those sleeper picks where they may have not done it last year, but this year they're putting up the numbers. They might stick around for a while. We'll see if they can do any serious damage in the postseason. A New Boston Huron, they scored, I believe, 94 goals last year. They did lose once this past week to Milan, 5-3. They're another team that, you wouldn't want to play a team like that when they're so polished offensively that if they get, untracked in a game, it's kind of hard to slow down. I had the pleasure of watching Allendale here a week ago. Allendale moved to that new River Cities Conference. They're in first place. They beat Cedar Springs last Monday 3-0. Allendale, the Falcons brought back all 11 starters, several key reserves. They have two of the best sophomores in the state of Michigan. That team is well balanced, very good defensively, and we'll see if they can win their very first district championship in school history. They have the talent to do so. It's one of those very tough districts with Hudsonville Unitarian Christian and several other good teams in that district. So that's another team that's on the rise. Grand Rapids Forest Hill Central, they graduated 8 starters and 15 total players, but here they are. They just simply reloaded. We've talked about that over the last couple of years. Certain programs, it doesn't matter how many kids they graduate, they always seem to have a next man up mentality. Next group slides in, and they're playing very good soccer. That white division of the Ottawa-Kent Conference is one of the best conferences in all of Michigan. The white and the red are very deep in terms of quality teams. Waterford Kettering, they haven't beaten a ton of ranked teams, but they hadn't been ranked since 1999. The captains were last out of 9 schools in that Lakes Valley Conference. So regardless of what happens here down the stretch, this is one of the great stories of the 2024 season. 12-1, best start in school history. They've lost 1 game in the conference. They're one of the top 3 teams this year in the Lakes Valley Conference. They have a chance to win the regular season or the conference tournament, maybe the overall crown in that league. We'll keep an eye on the captains, see what kind of sailing they have here down the stretch. Grand Rapids South Christian, they put up some huge numbers, scoring 88 goals last year. They brought back a ton of firepower. They're now up in Division II. Will Koppife is a very good offensive player, but they have good players all over the pitch. DeWitt, we had a chance to watch them on the network here the other day when they beat Okemos 2-0. They did take a loss here over the weekend. That was their first loss, but DeWitt, another talented team. They've been to a few Final Fours here in the last decade. It's the Panthers, yet to win a state championship in boys soccer. They have won in girls soccer, but not in boys. We'll see if they can make a run here. Wardendale South has played a very tough schedule here. They have a couple of losses on their schedule, but brought back their whole roster. Did not have a single senior last year. The Pilots are still playing solid soccer. Fruitport, I believe this is the highest ranking that school's ever had. At one point last year, they had 13 straight shutouts, and then they gave up a goal in the regional finals, and they lost to Grand Rapids Christian 1-0. They outshot the Eagles 8-2, and Grand Rapids Christian went on to win the state championship. So there's another team that this could be their best team. That's another squad that could win it all here in 2024. And Holland was your 2017 state champ. This is their best team since then. They won the Green Division of the Ottawa-Kent Conference last year. They brought back a ton of players. Otis Fickle and the rest of the Dutch have moved into that top spot. They lost opening weekend of the season, I believe, the Grand Rapids Christian in a close game. They have not lost since. So Holland taking over number 1. They're off to a great start. We'll see if they're able to maintain this. Definitely another team that you wouldn't want to have to face in the postseason.
No doubt about it. And we got a comment here in regards to Holland taking that number 1 spot from Emmett Vance. How is Holland ranked number 1? We beat them 3-0. We would love to know who we is in regards to the team that you're supporting that beat Holland 3-0. But there is a lot that goes into these rankings other than head-to-head matchups. And we mentioned in the previous division how important those head-to-head matchups are, but there is many more factors, strength of schedule, and the conference you play in, and how that kind of context puts into it. So there is a lot that goes into, especially putting the team at number 1.
Yeah, and you look, again, you go down all 3 divisions we've presented so far, a lot of these teams have a chance to play each other, a lot of 1-goal games. Yeah, they did beat one of the teams 3-0. I believe that team also has 3 or 4 losses at this time, which is why that other side's kind of slotted down a little bit on the list. But Holland has been playing very good here the last couple of weeks. They've been climbing the charts, and we'll see. Again, they're number 1 right now. They might be able to maintain it, make a run. They might take a couple losses in the upcoming couple of weeks and fall down the charts a little bit. We'll see, because there's not much difference. You look at a lot of these teams, and a lot of these schools in that top 10 are from the Grand Rapids area. Chances are, in conference play or non-conference or even the district play, a lot of these schools are going to see each other here over the next 4 to 5 weeks.
And another comment coming in, Sweaty Extreme 3, a fantastic name, saying, can we talk about Heartland? And Dan, I'll ask that question to you.
Yeah,
can we talk about Heartland?
We'll talk about Heartland here when we get to Division I here, coming up here in just a few minutes.
No doubt about it. That wraps up Division II. A total of 14 changes with one team in and one team out. A new number 1 in Holland with a requested conversation about Heartland coming up next. When we talk about Division I here in the Michigan Soccer Network High School Rankings Show, where does Northville land and who took that number 1 spot? We'll find out after the break right here on the Michigan Soccer Network.
Now Worrell has a good cutback from him. He'll fire one, and that's going to go in! Granite City Food and Brewery has 2 Michigan locations in Troy and Northville. Serves made-from-scratch food, brews in-house beer, and even has brunch every Sunday from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. To learn more about their daily specials or to book a private party, visit gcfb.com. Make sure you head over to Granite City in Northville at the corner of 7 Mile and Haggerty, or the Troy location at 16 Mile and I-75.
Are you looking to play at the next level? MSN is now offering player recruitment videos. We are excited to partner with you and your family in getting you to the next level. To learn more about our packages and what we offer, head over to the MichiganSoccerNetwork.com. Remember, your journey starts with a click.
What rhymes with great?
Participate.
Where does greatness start? Here, in the classroom.
On the diamond.
In the pool. On the field. Where will your greatness take you?
To better grades.
To more friends.
Yeah!
Be great.
Participate!
Welcome back in, everybody, to the Michigan Soccer Network High School Ranking Show. We've made it to Week 4, and we've made it to Division I. We covered the previous 3 divisions, Division 4, 3, and 2. That brings us to number 1 here, and we are so excited to talk about this one. Almost as much changes as we saw in Division 2 that had the most changes, a total of 13 changed within this top 15 ranking, but all the same 15 teams. So the order got shuffled here for Division I. We can't wait to break it down for you right here on MSN.
Yeah, you look at this list, there's going to be a new number 1. We'll talk about that. That particular team is putting up some huge numbers here at the first month. But there are a lot of very good teams. A lot of these teams are so close in talent that we'll see which one of these schools, or will someone not on that top 15 list, end up taking the state championship. Again, we'll be at Grand Ledge High School the first Saturday of November. That was the first time last year that all 4 finals are played at one site. Thought it went well for the most part. You had the Coach Association at a tent there. You know, fans from all over the state of Michigan drove down to the Lansing area to watch some very good games last year. So we'll see which 8 schools make their way. It's only 2 months away till the state finals.
Can't believe it. And now let's get into that top 15 of Division I. Let's see who's the best of the best. We'll start at number 15. Down 2 spots from last week, we find Ann Arbor Huron. And jumping up from that 15th spot up to the 14th, we find Edsel Ford. And also up 1 spot at number 13, we have Hudsonville. Holding on to their spots at number 12 is Romeo, as well as number 11, Traverse City West. Coming down 2 spots from last week into the number 10 spot, we find Byron Center. Number 9, up 1 spot is Berkeley. And number 8, also up 1 spot, is Grand Blanc. Hopping down 3 spots from last time, number 7 finds Rochester Adams and the Highlanders. And number 6, up 1 spot from last week, the Troy Athens makes their way to number 6. Getting into the top 5 here, down 3 spots, we find Plymouth at number 5, and up 2 spots, we find both Oxford at number 4 and Troy High at number 3. In your top 2, hopping down from number 1, we find Northville, and getting that number 1 spot, jumping up from number 3 last week, Portage Central is your number 1 team of Week 4 in Division 1. Your honorable mentions include Utica Eisenhower, Celine, Livonia Stevenson, Rockford, and Lake Orion. As mentioned before, it's the same 15 teams from last week in a different order for a total of 13 changes. Dan, a lot going on here in this Division 1. Break it down for us.
Well, Ann Arbor Huron, we had the comment about Matthew Pletcher. He is probably the best junior goalkeeper in the state. I had a chance to see Huron last season. I was very impressed by his play. He played at MLS Next as a freshman, came back to Huron last year, ended up sticking with Huron this year as well, even though he had some invites to go back to the MLS Next circle. So having a great goalkeeper, Huron is one of 5 undefeated teams in Division 1. They're 5-0-4. They tied Troy Athens here 0-0 over the weekend. So you have a lot of very talented players, plus a very good goalkeeper that will bode well for Huron, moving forward. Dearborn Edsel Ford at 14. We'll talk about the Thunderbirds because someone made a comment about their strength of schedule last year. And granted, you cannot control 2 things. What conference your school is in, that is made considering all sports and where you're at in the state by superintendents and athletic directors and principals. They decide those factors. And then you cannot choose what district you were placed in. You can only deal with what the schedule is in front of you. And Edsel Ford, I believe this is probably their best start in program history. 7 shutouts, and they have outscored the opposition 57-4. That's pretty impressive. I don't care who you're playing. Edsel Ford is a program that's definitely, in the last 5 years, really put themselves on the map. They won the Downriver League and a district championship last season. So hats off Edsel Ford. They've made some headways here. Hudsonville, someone mentioned in a pre-show conversation, they got a very good defense. They have, I believe, 6 shutouts. They're just one of those teams that is very difficult to score upon, but they're not scoring a ton of goals. They've only had 14 goals this season, but it's been enough to prevail a lot of games. Vinny Vasilevsky took over Romeo 4 years ago, and they have worked their way up to that Macomb Area Conference Red Division. They're one of the top teams. They'll play Utica Eisenhower here tomorrow night on MSN. Their program has definitely been on the rise. They've had some injuries here as of late, but still a very good team. Traverse City West, Aiden North, we've talked about him. He's one of the best players in Michigan, but that's another program. They just reload every year. They've won 14 straight Big North Conference championships, and Traverse City Central was supposed to give them a challenge this year. They knocked off the Trojans 3-0 here this past week. So Traverse City West, which opened back in 1997, it's less than 30 years old. They're going for their 15th straight conference championship. I'd have to think that was probably the best streak in the state of Michigan at this point.
Just about every other year they got it.
Yeah. Byron Center, a great success story. They lost their first game of the season. That came against a very good Grand Rapids South Christian team that's ranked 5th in Division 2, and that team got to the regional finals last year. So Byron Center having their best season in school history at this point, and we'll see what kind of damage they can do come the postseason. Berkeley, their goalkeeper last year is on the roster at the University of Wisconsin. They brought in another goalkeeper that was the backup last year. They already have 8 shutouts. They're 10-1-1 with a 39-6 scoring edge. Steve Walczak has done a great job again. Another program that last decade, Berkeley has been a model consistency. I've mentioned that at an earlier broadcast this season. Grand Blanc, Nick Thomas has done a great job. And when you graduate 17 players from your roster, only brought back 4 kids with varsity experience, 2 starters, 2 reserves, but they're playing very good at this point. They're trying to defend their Saginaw Valley League, championship, and they've outscored their opposition 34-5 with 5 straight shutouts. So the Bobcats are firing on all cylinders. Another team that they've never won a state championship in boys or girls soccer. We're going to mention this about a couple other schools as well. Rochester Adams, they were down 3. They've played a really tough schedule. They've outscored their opposition, I believe, 32-7 with 4 shutouts. But that team, player for player, they might have more talent on their roster than just about any team in the 4 divisions. We'll see that 2 years ago, they only lost 1 game, but they had 6 ties. They finished 17-1-6, but they won a state championship 2 years ago. Troy Athens, your defending state champ, graduated 16 players. They went all the way down, I believe, 14th here a couple weeks ago. Now they're back up at 6. They knocked off Rochester Adams 2-0 here in the OA Red Division, which is a very good league. Top 5, let's take a look. Plymouth, Oxford, Northville, Portage Central, and Grand Blanc. Those schools, as good as they have been over the years, they've never won state championships. We'll see if one of these teams can finally knock that door down. Plymouth did lose their first game of the season to Heartland 2-0 here, or excuse me, I think it was 3-2 earlier in the week. Plymouth's still a very good team. They kind of been building towards this season. Heartland, not on this list. They're graduated 20 players from last year. Only brought back, I believe, 5 kids off that roster and 1 starter. They turn around. It's a young team. They have, I believe, 6 sophomores, and they turn around and lost to Birmingham Brother Rice 6-1 yesterday. Had a chance to call that game as well. So Heartland, they'll have their ups and downs with a young team, but by the end of the year, they might be a team that could knock off a team or two. They proved that they're worthy early in the week. Oxford has 13 seniors. This is the highest Oxford's been ranked as a Division I school. They had some top 5 teams back in the 1990s and early 2000s in Division II, but this is their highest ranking ever in Division I. Troy High hasn't won a state championship since 2003. They are undefeated at 6-0-0. Played a tough schedule, only giving up 3 goals all season. Northville had 2 ties this week. They tied Brighton, they tied Plymouth, so they fall to number 2. But don't count out the Mustangs. That team is very good. They had an injury to a key player. They hope to get back before the state tournament. And then Portage Central, another team. They've never won a state championship in boys soccer. For a program dating back to the early 1980s, they have made multiple runs to the regional finals and Final Four. Is this year Tim Howland can kind of guide that team to a state championship? We'll see. They have had a great season so far. 51-4 scoring edge with 7 shutouts, and they've played some very good teams. When I saw earlier in the year when they knocked off East Kentwood 6-1, I'm thinking Mustangs might be for real, and they've kind of lived up to that reputation here in the first 4 weeks of the season. So Portage Central, your new number 1, they're playing some very solid soccer, and we'll see. They're favored in that Southwestern Michigan Athletic Conference. They could win that again this year. They won a district last year. I believe they lost in the regional finals to Rockford. So will Portage Central, will Northville, will Oxford, any of the other teams in this list, will this be the year they knock down that door and win a state championship? We'll see. It's not that far away.
We'll see. And as always, despite the way the rankings are, any team can make anything happen. We want to make sure that we acknowledge that. If you don't think that you are ranked as you should be, and we got a way to get you in better consideration. We'll talk about that in a little bit here. But we want to talk about Northville's goalie here, as we got Soccer Double Fan in the YouTube chat here. We wanted to ask about it. So for the number 2 team, their goalie, what are your thoughts so far?
Yeah, Pfeiffer, he was an all-league first team, all-district goalkeeper last year. Northville, they graduated 3 or 4 very good players off that roster. But they were very, very deep last year. They played over 20 players a game. They were very deep. When you have over 100 kids trying out for your program every year, Northville is in that KLA West, which anyone that's followed soccer in their lifetime knows that's one of the best leagues in the state year in and year out. There's 6, 7 good teams in that league every year. It is very tough. Sometimes you could be in the bottom half of the league but have a very good night and knock off one of those top 2 or 3 teams, in a league game. So we'll see how that league shifts, let alone we'll see if any of these teams make a run. Northville just haven't had the luck. Last year they lost in the state semifinals to Troy Athens in a double overtime. 3 years ago, they lost in the state semifinals as well. Will this be the year that Northville can get it done? Any of the other teams? But yeah, I do like Northville. I've seen them play a few times here over the years, and there's one of those teams, they just always seem to have a lot of very good players.
And now let's take a look as to how you can get your team in better consideration for being on this top 15 list. And we mentioned it earlier in the show, but we want to reiterate that there is only one way to get your team in better looks and better eyes with the division chairs, and that is by contacting your head coach. Only head coaches have the authority and are recognized for input and for criticism and for otherwise that kind of input only from division coaches, or only from soccer coaches, are you able to get yourself in contact with one of these division chairs here. So we'll read out the names here. Jeremy Tabkiss from North Muskegon, he is the division chair for Division 4. John Evans from Grosse Ile is the division chair for Division 3. Paul Kramer from Forest Hill Central is your division chair for Division 2. And Steve Vlosek is from Berkeley, is your Division 1 chair. So make sure your head coach contacts your division chair to get your team a better shot as to being featured in next week's Michigan Soccer Network High School Ranking Show. And let's take a look at some of the fantastic games that we got coming up right here on the Michigan Soccer Network. We got a total of 11 broadcasts ready for you. 4 of them including ranked teams that we featured here tonight in the Ranking Show. They are up on your screen here. The one way to make sure that you find all of these games and you're on time is to subscribe right here on YouTube. Follow us on social media, the Roku channel, the National Soccer Network, as well as the the NFSA Network would be the way that you can find these fantastic games here. Michigan Soccer Network is your home for all things soccer in the state of Michigan, and those are the games we got coming up for this week. I can't wait for them, Dan. Me and you are going to be broadcasting a few of them, as well as our other great talent that we have here at the network. It's going to be a lot of soccer and a lot of fun this week.
It's amazing how many games. We talked as a staff, we'd like to get 50, maybe 100, over 100 games this fall in terms of high school, small college, and club. We're well on our way to reaching that mark. We've had a lot of calls and interest from all parts of Michigan. We had 5 schools 2 weeks ago win free broadcasts. We had a chance to head out to Buchanan, Michigan. That was the first time we've been in a small town on the Indiana border this year. So yeah, it's great. We had games in Harbor Springs, Traverse City, Grand Rapids, in Wayne County, Olkin County, just about all parts of the state of Michigan. So it's great that the interest is there as we continue to grow. Hopefully everyone across the state of Michigan, if you're a soccer fan, be along for the ride. We've talked about here since the end of July about the National Soccer Network, that our parent company, the Premier Media Group, is launching here over the course of the next several months. I can't wait to see how that all works out here the next couple of years. But so much on tap, so much potential from our standpoint. We continue to grow, and it's just exciting times here on the network.
No doubt about it, and being sure to be one of those early subscribers to say that you were there when we were just the Michigan Soccer Network before we get sky high, before we blow the roof off this place with the National Soccer Network. So be one of those early ones to get on board. And that will wrap it up here for the MSN High School Ranking Show for the Michigan High School Soccer Coaches Association. It's been so much fun. 46 changes in the rankings from last week, 135 total for these 4 weeks of the boys soccer season. And we got plenty more coverage coming up here every Sunday, 8 o'clock. We'll be back here on the Michigan Soccer Network to break down the new top 15 teams in boys soccer. We'll be there all the way till the season's end. We'll talk about the dream team, some of the best teams in Michigan. We'll have coverage of the playoffs. We got a whole lot coming up, and we can't wait for you guys to be there with us. So from our production staff, we got Jonathan Turner in the background making sure that we look good here. We appreciate what you do here, John. MSN News Director Dan Stick right by my side. My name is Giovanni Mosheri, and we thank you so much for tuning in to the Michigan Soccer Network. We'll see you next time, Sunday at 8 o'clock for Week 5's Ranking Show.
And for Baccarat, and that goes in! Hugo Baccarat gives Flint City a 3-2. Buckley, the ball falls to Buckley. 1-on-1 with Etheridge. What a save!
Welcome into the first ever MSN All-State Media Day for girls soccer. Jonathan Turner alongside Dan Stickrat.
Ball comes in, a good head! 1-0! Shot, another save from Etheridge! Rebound, and it goes in the back of the net!
effectively today here on the Michigan Soccer Network, we are launching our new division of player recruitment videos.
Mario Canoe now finds Sock. Finds Sock's got a left-footed banger. He shoots it!